Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. On behalf of Manila House, this is Bambina Olivares, Director of Programming, welcoming members and non-members alike to today's online conversation. Portugal arrives in Manila, going for gold part 7, the Portuguese Golden Visa, presented in partnership with Golden Visa Centrale. If this is your first time to join us online, allow me to introduce Manila House. We are a private members club that opened in February 2017 with the aim of bringing together an assemblage of people from the business, creative, cultural, and intellectual communities who are drawn to each other by a shared interest to continuously learn about art, culture, food, business, and politics, and from the diversity of their fellow members themselves. It is a community of curious, committed, and caring individuals, and it lives on beyond the physical confines of the club. We began our webinar series in May 2020, covering and encouraging discussion about a range of topical issues, from business and investment to health and wellness and arts and culture. We have featured both local and international speakers and continue to broaden our reach among members and non-members alike. Our previous webinars are available for viewing on the Manila House YouTube channel. That said, for the non-members among us, you might like to consider membership to Manila House. We have a limited number of memberships still available. Please email us at membership@manilahouseinc.com for more information. Before we begin, just a few ground rules. This event is being recorded and live streamed and will be up on the Manila House YouTube channel in a day or two. Please use the chat box and the Q&A box for any questions and comments, and we'll get to your questions as we go along. Thank you. And now, allow me to introduce the people from very fine people from Golden Visa Central, who will be talking about how to acquire the Portuguese Golden Visa and also aim for eventual citizenship in Portugal, should you so wish, and how to achieve this by investment. Next slide, please. Let me introduce up first is Vicky Luis, who is the president of Golden Visa Central Philippines. Vicky Luis is also a member of Manila House, and we're happy to see her again. She graduated in California and has been in the real estate and mortgage industry in the San Francisco Bay Area since the mid-90s. Vicky is one of the pioneers who brought the Golden Visa program from Portugal to the Philippines and has had numerous sales with a 100% success rate. Also joining us today, next slide, please, is Rosalia Torres, who is a partner with Irish Capital Partners. Rosalia has a Master in Science degree in Economics from the University of Carlos III in Madrid, Spain, and has 12 years of banking experience in Spain and the UAE, covering the real estate market, among other key industries. She moved to overseas real estate advisory and immigration through property investment, specialized in global wealth creation and second citizenship solutions through cross-border real estate investment and development by founding the companies Al España Properties and Global Minds, which later on merged to become Irish Capital Partners. Next slide, please. Rakesh Majitya is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. He joined a preeminent investment bank in 2000, where he spent 10 years working on a variety of investment banking and real estate financing transactions. He moved to the hedge fund industry as partner in 2010. He established himself as a real estate investor in 2013 and co-founded Aram Capital United. He's a chief investment officer of Irish Capital Partners. Next slide, please. Andre Miranda is the founder and managing partner at Pinto Ribeiro Abogados. Andre Miranda graduated from Lisbon Nova School of Law. He joined a top-tier international law firm based in Lisbon from 2005 to 2011. He held several high-level positions in the Portuguese government, initially as legal advisor, then chief of staff, and also director at the presidency of the Council of Ministers and at the Ministry of Justice. In 2011, he established himself as an independent lawyer, and then in 2014, he co-founded AM Avogados. In 2018, he co-founded Pinto Ribeiro Abogados. He has a diverse legal practice with an emphasis in strategic advice, to national and international clients, individual clients in various areas of law, notably in real estate and immigration. Next. Here you'll find all our contact details should you wish to get in touch with us. And also Golden Visa Centrale will also provide their contact details later on during the webinar. And now let me turn you all over to Vicky Luis. Vicky, pleasure to see you again.
Pleasure,
Please tell us more.
Pleasure, Bambina. Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction and having us at Manila House. Good afternoon, everybody. We're so glad to be doing this with you again. So my name is Vicky Luis, President of Golden Visa Centrale, and I would like to welcome everybody this afternoon. Today, we will share why the Golden Visa of Portugal is the gateway to Europe, and also the process it entails to embark on this program, plus the benefits, of course, of having a second residency. I introduced the Golden Visa program of Portugal to my fellow Filipinos back in 2019. I am so proud to say that with the team you're meeting today, we have had 100% success rate in processing Golden Visa applications. I was so passionate about this program because I felt it would help a lot of people, especially my fellow Filipinos. I also have a daughter that will eventually go to university. And when I learned about this program, I was so excited because I knew how much savings as a local resident we would have versus that of a foreign student. And that is just one of the benefits of doing this program. I was also excited to know that once you get your residency card for the Golden Visa, you will no longer need a Schengen visa with your Filipino passport. With one investment of merely 280,000 euros as an entry point, you can actually bring 3 generations of your family. So you will be able to bring your spouse, your children under 18, over 18, as long as they're still your dependents. And we've had clients that have done that. They had kids that were 25 or even older and still got into the program successfully. You can also bring your parents and parents-in-law simultaneously. So basically, the beauty of Portugal Golden Visa program is there's no relocation. You only have to go an average of 7 days a year. And after that, you can live, work, and study and avail of the free education and healthcare in Portugal. And eventually, you'll be able to access 27 European countries. So that is the beauty of the Golden Visa Portugal in a nutshell. But today, I'm happy to introduce the group that has just left Manila about a couple weeks ago. And we also did this event with Manila House and also in Polo Club. I'm so happy to introduce to you the team that I've been working with for like 4 years now, beginning, of course, with Rosalia Torres from Irish Capital Partners. Rosalia is the head of sales and international markets for Irish. Thank you, Rosalia.
Thank you, Vicky. Very nice being here today.
Thank you. Of course, we have Rakesh Majithia, Chief Investment Officer, also from Irish Capital Partners, who is also now a Manila House member. So that's how much they're in the Philippines, guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you, Rak. And of course, we have Andre Miranda, our partner law firm in Portugal. Andre's a partner at Pinto Rivera Advogados and also has been to the Philippines numerous times. Hello, Andre.
Hello, good morning from Lisbon. Thank you very much for this meeting, Vicky.
Thank you. And of course, we have Laura who just left Manila too. Hi, Laura. Good morning.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having us, Vicky.
Thank you. So, guys, this is the team that you'll be working with. I'm so proud to tell you we've been having a lot of Filipino clients, and they're all very pleased. At the end of the webinar, we will do a Q&A. So please feel free to type in your answers, and we will go over them. So without further ado, let me turn you over to Rakesh.
Okay, thank you, Vicky, and good afternoon, everyone, again. I think Vicky's touched upon several points that relate to the investment in Golden Visa qualifying properties in Portugal, the generational benefits, the educational benefits, and just generally having a longer life plan, if you like, for those of you that are thinking about these types of things. And if I can, what I'm going to do is share a presentation which hopefully takes you on a little bit of a journey in respect of the aspects of what we're going to be talking about today, which is an introduction to Portugal as a country. We then look at the real estate market, the economy, the government, and then the Golden Visa program, how it works. Andre and Laura will be able to talk you through the technical detail of that. And then finally, we land on our latest development, which is indeed a Golden Visa eligible property development. So let me share the screen if I can, and we'll take you on this journey if we can. 1 second. Apologies. Okay, so hopefully you can all see the screen in front of you. Just to start with a quick introduction to Arish, who we are and what we do. So Arish is a real estate investment and development company. We've been going now for just coming up to 12 years. We have our offices in London. That is indeed where our head office is, in Dubai, which is where myself, Rosalia, and the other members of the sales and operations team sit. And then we have our office in Lisbon, which has our technical team, construction directors, etc., and primarily look after all of our Portuguese investments. In terms of our investment focus over the last sort of 10 to 12 years, for the first 6 or 7 years, we were very much focused on the UK market in terms of what I would call niche sectors. So a lot of student accommodation, care homes for the elderly, as well as residential and commercial schemes. But then when Brexit got announced around 4.5 years ago, we decided to expand our European footprint, and having done quite a lot of due diligence across various EU countries, we very much became bought into the Portugal story. We like the macroeconomics there, we like the stability in the government, and we feel that there are various factors that just overall support real estate investment in the country. This is just a snapshot of some of our prior developments in the UK and indeed in Portugal. These are all now sold out, fully sold out. And the one that we're going to be focusing on at the end of the presentation is Sun House Comporta, which is a residential project which qualifies for Golden Visa eligibility. Now, I think as a natural starting point, perhaps many of you are asking what I would think is a very reasonable question in terms of why invest in a foreign country such as Portugal. And we indeed had the same question ourselves, having been established in the UK for such a long time. Why would we invest in Portugal? And I think for us, the investment hypothesis was quite simple. We have a simple 3-prong test that we like to see if we can satisfy. And I think it makes sense that we share some of that with you, because it will probably help to answer some of the questions that you may have. First and foremost, we want to understand in that 3-prong test the government and how stable it is, and does it encourage foreign direct investment? Secondly, we want to understand the nature of the economy. Is it well diversified? Is it mature? Is it robust? And then finally, we obviously want to understand the detail of the real estate market itself, because after all, that is what we're going to be investing in. And is it saturated or is it emergent, etc.? If we can tick these 3 things off, then we have the makings of what we would call a smart investment. Smart, why? Because typically property can be and should be quite predictable in many ways, in that you want it to give you yield, i.e. income, and you want it to give you the possibility of capital growth. In this particular investment, you also have the added benefit of the investment being also Golden Visa qualifying. Now, starting with that journey in terms of an introduction to Portugal, and for those that have been to Portugal, this will be revision, and for those of you that haven't, this will be a bit of vision. Portugal is a relatively small country in the western side of Europe, a population of 10.5 million, average life expectancy of 81 years old. I think that speaks to their healthcare system. which they've invested in over the last 10 to 12 years. And Portuguese is a language that is spoken. And as I was sort of pleasantly surprised, actually much of the population, in excess of 60%, speak English very fluently. And indeed, most of the public spaces are indeed dual signposted in terms of it being in Portuguese and in English. As I touched upon, the healthcare system is very well respected within the European community. It actually ranks at a high level, being number 14. So behind sort of Germany, which is number 12. So that gives you an indication of how good the healthcare system is within the country itself. In terms of the government, it is a democracy since 1976. It's been a member of the EU since 1986. And it would generally be described as being a strong and stable government, which has any number of policies that are both progressive and inclusive in nature. What does that mean? Well, perhaps there's no better example than the Golden Visa scheme itself, which has been going for now coming up to 10 years, inviting foreign people into the country. So that's a very good sign of it being inclusive and progressive. But it's not just at an individual level that the government has focused its policies at. Over the last sort of 10 to 12 years, they have encouraged any number of corporate policies such as tax favorable rates, etc., allowing multinational companies to treat Portugal as perhaps their European headquarters. In terms of the economy itself, for the third year in a row, the IMF has predicted GDP growth rates for Portugal as number one for 3 years in a row. In this case, it's at 4.9%. I think this has been slightly revised upwards now, notwithstanding the current sort of economic situation. And that's in advance of countries such as Germany and others in the EU. And there's a reason for that. It's because of the fact that whilst many people locate in their minds, at least, Portugal being a very touristic country, which indeed it is, it has beautiful beaches, etc., but it does in fact have a very mixed economy, ranging from a very strong manufacturing base, textile base, tertiary services, law firms, insurance companies, and most recently it's becoming more and more recognized for its leading tech hub capabilities. It's been hosting the Web Summit now for a number of years, and you can very much see the energy that's been brought about by these advancements in the tech sector. This is just a snapshot of some of those multinational companies that have chosen to locate their European headquarters within Portugal because of a mix of the sort of available talent within the country, those government policies that have encouraged multinational companies to be based within Portugal, and also because it does have a very affordable cost of living, even still amongst these very high inflationary environments. In terms of the real estate market itself, when we decided to become invested within Portugal, actually one of the metrics that really caught our attention was this bar chart that you can see on the left-hand side, which shows a comparison of residential prices per square meter of Portugal, in this case Lisbon, versus other European capitals. And you can see here that Lisbon was very much undervalued and continues to be undervalued versus its European cousins. And as an investor, that was a perfect entry point for us. It didn't make any sense that Lisbon and indeed Portugal was so undervalued, given the economic status of it, given the IMF predictions, and given the diversity in its economy. What does that mean in terms of yields and capital growth? Well, you can see here that as of September 2021, house prices grew at almost 10%. The rate, that's an average. The range has been anywhere between 6 and 12%, depending upon the location. Going forward, whilst there has been a lot of growth in the past few years, we do still expect there to be continued growth, perhaps not at the same pace, but we would still allocate, in our view, an investment hypothesis around 4 and 5% in terms of yield and capital growth rates. That has meant that actually Portugal has becoming featuring more and more in terms of not just being a place for lifestyle, but more becoming a place for investment. The Millionaire Migration Index, which is something that is produced annually, you can see here that actually Portugal is the first country amongst the EU countries within this index, gaining 1,300 millionaires in this year alone. And that has been a growing trend, so much so that actually, if you're reading any type of real estate articles, you'll see that Portugal's often now being described as the California of Europe. It does have these beautiful beaches and coastline. People like Madonna, Christian Louboutin, and most recently, George Clooney have invested in the country itself. And in fact, George Clooney's mansion is not far from our new development, Sunhouse Comporta, which we'll come on to a little later. So that hopefully takes you through phase one of this journey, which is an introduction to the country of Portugal, the government, the economy, and the real estate market. I think we're now going to invite Laura and Andre on to talk you through some of the benefits of the Golden Visa program, and indeed give you some of the metrics that go with becoming eligible for the Golden Visa program itself. So Andre, Laura, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rakesh. And thank you everyone who is now attending our webinar. I'm Andre Miranda, I'm a lawyer from Portugal, and I'm here to give you some initial introduction to our Portuguese Golden Visa program. This is a program that was introduced already 10 years ago. It has been very successful. More than 10,000 main applicants already got their approvals. Many more are in the pipeline waiting for their approvals. The program has allowed an amount over 6 billion euros already to be channeled to Portugal. This is very important to such a small country in Europe like Portugal to attract such amount of investment. It's a program that also can cover family members. So not only we have the main applicants who get their residency permits, but also all family members are able to get as well the same a residency permit with the same benefits as the main applicant. As Vicky mentioned before, this program is in terms of in terms of Europe, the fastest way to get European Union citizenship, because in 5 years, provided that you pass the language test, you will be able to get a Portuguese passport to become also European Union member. There are many ways of conducting investment activity. Real estate is obviously the one that has attracted more interest from foreign investors. There are many options of investment available. The government has introduced many improvements around the last years, and so now from 280,000 euros up to 500,000 euros, depending on the location, the type of asset that you choose, the type of transaction as well that you are willing to do, you will be able to get this residency permit. There are other options as well with more connected with transfer of capital, but it's certain that real estate, because it provides return to the clients, because it's considered a safe investment, as Rakesh already mentioned before, has been the one that has attracted more people. Now I would go to let you know some of the requirements that you need to comply with. The process itself is quite simple. So you need to get a tax ID number, open a bank account in Portugal, and then just need to transfer the funds to Portugal. You'll get our legal assistance in all the stages of the process. We will, of course, also guide you in preparing the documentation to submit your application. So after you conclude your investment activity, you are able to start your application and initiate this journey here in Portugal. Some of the things that I feel that are very, very attractive in this program, I think the fact, for example, that you need only to stay in Portugal 7 days per year. This is very important in terms of compliance. So if you do not need to become a permanent resident or have continuous residency in Portugal to be legal resident here. So 7 days per year means 5 weeks in 5 years' time. So it's quite easy to comply with and very, very competitive when we see other European programs. Also, there are no tax implications. So this means that by the fact that you become legal resident, you do not become tax resident in Portugal. This is very important. So you do not need to change your tax status. You will only be taxed for any income that you generate here in Portugal. So there will be no worldwide income taxes as well. Also, as I said, you can include your family members. And I do know that this is very important. Many of you are thinking not only on you, but also on your children, on the future of your children as a plan B, as an option that they will get in the future. And so it's important that you can include many relatives, so children, parents, parents-in-law. So it's a 3-generation program, and so very broad. And with a single investment, you can include almost your family, all of your family members. Finally, the program gives you the ability to move around Europe in 26 Schengen countries without Schengen visa. I will now go to the options that you have available after 5 years. So after 5 years, you can become permanent resident. Okay, so this can be attractive for people that do not want to get a Portuguese citizenship, and but they want to have like a long-term residency status in Portugal and in Europe. So this will also give the ability to live and work in Portugal. It will also allow people to sell the asset that they invested, so they will get a legal title without having to hold the property. But obviously, that the most interesting feature is to get the passport and to get the Portuguese citizenship. This will be valid for lifetime. Portugal allows multiple citizenship. This is very important for you to know, that you do not need to get rid of your your country's citizenship. You can keep both passports, and Portugal do allow that. And very important to let you know as well that to get this passport, you just need to comply with 2 requirements. One is to hold for 5 years the residency permit. So you need to hold the property for 5 years. And second, you need to pass a language test. It's a 2-hour exam, not difficult, basic level of Portuguese, basic knowledge of Portuguese language, level A2, a beginner's level. You just need to pass the test. You are not, the idea is that you do not need to prove that you speak Portuguese, but you need to have some basic knowledge about our language. A 2-hour exam, and then you'll get the certification for all your life. And this is it. These are the main features of the program. I think I can now move to Rakesh again. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. And maybe just to complete a little bit of the puzzle in terms of the Golden Visa application, I think it's sensible just to give you a quick highlight of what the fees are that are payable indeed to the Portuguese government, which are really administration fees. And you can see here that actually the fees payable by every single applicant over 5 years is just over 12,000 euros. That is spread over the 5 years, so approximately half is paid up front, and then the balance is paid over the 5 years. And therefore, for a typical family of 4, a husband and wife and 2 children, the cost over 5 years is around 49,000 euros. And again, these are all fees that are paid to the government of Portugal as administration and processing fees. Now, I think hopefully Andre has set out quite nicely what the Golden Visa requirements and benefits are. And I think what we wanted to do very briefly now, if we can, is just go back to something that Vicky introduced, which was actually an educational related benefit. And this really is applicable for those of you that perhaps have children that will be coming up to university age in a few years' time, and are thinking about perhaps sending your children to university in Europe. And the reason why we wanted to sort of highlight this short video is because there is a massive cost differential if you are sending your children as a non-EU resident to an EU university. Sometimes it's between 5 to 10 times more that you would be paying. And that extra cost really does give you some form of economic incentive or benefit of investing in a property, becoming an EU citizen, and therefore benefiting from the reduced university fees. So I'm going to play this short video, and hopefully this helps to highlight that point quite well.
Did you know non-European students pay more than 10 times the tuition fees than European citizens for the same education degree in Europe? Yes, you heard me right. Brandon from Ireland pays €3,000 tuition fees per year, while John pays €45,000, both studying medicine in Dublin. Even more concerning, John, as a non-EU citizen, may not be able to live and work in Europe after graduating. So, as parents, what can we do? Easy. Have you heard about the Portuguese Golden Visa program? 1. Invest in an eligible property for as low as €350,000. 2. Obtain your Portuguese residency card. 3. Spend as little as 7 days a year in Portugal for 5 years. 4. Apply for you and your family's citizenship to acquire a lifetime of European rights and benefits. Hurry up and don't miss out on this limited window of opportunity.
Okay, hopefully that helped to illustrate perhaps a little bit more simply some of the benefits in investing in the property in Portugal, becoming a citizen, and then reaping some of the benefits of reduced university fees for your children. So Vicky, I don't know if you had anything more to add to that, or whether we should move on to the final piece of the presentation, which is obviously an introduction to the new development that we have.
That's good. I think it summarizes the Golden Visa program in a nutshell for parents. And this is actually why I mentioned in the start, I brought this to the Philippines, is because it will actually help our kids.
Indeed. Okay, so on that note, as I say, this is the final part of the presentation, and this really then leads to us explaining our newly launched development, which is a residential development, and indeed Golden Visa qualifying. But I'll hand you over to Rosalia, who can talk you through the details of this project. Rossi, over to you.
Thank you, Rag, and good afternoon, everyone. So I think when we get to this part of the presentation, just to give a brief summary on what we spoke until now, we learn about Portugal, the beauty of the country. We learn that Portugal is actually a European Union country, prosperous, modern, with a very important and well-rated healthcare system, education system, a culture that is welcoming to all expat, to all international families that are moving to the country, and a country also that is very friendly for business and with many opportunities. We also learn that through the Golden Visa program, we can do investments in the country that lead us to the residency and later on to the citizenship, with all these benefits on the education, etc. So what are the investments that we can do in the real estate that will give us all of these benefits? The first thing that is very important to learn is that not all the investments or not all the real estate investment are going to lead us to the Golden Visa. Actually, are only limited to certain locations. When we look at the map of Portugal, which is this slide that we're looking at the moment, it's only mostly on the interior locations that are going to give us the access to the Golden Visa. Everything that is in gray is what is excluded. So if we go to Lisbon and we buy a beautiful penthouse of 4 million euros, it will probably be a very good investment, but it will not give us the residency benefit. So if we are aiming to do residential investment, it has to be mostly on the interior, with some actually exceptions by the in the coast, by the beach. And it's very, very important that we are quite surgical on where to invest. As we can imagine, the interior of the country is historically area that is more rural, that is local, medium to low income families, and therefore the liquidity on the investments are going to be probably a lot more limited than if we go to other locations where we have international audience and where we have more affluent locals. And this is exactly where our project is located. We are located 20 minutes from the coast, but also 1 hour only from the capital of Lisbon, still an eligible location for Golden Visa. It's a municipality called Grândola. It is only 1 hour from the international airport of Lisbon, also 1.5 hours from the south, which is a very touristic location called Algarve. And is indeed an area, if you remember my colleague mentioned, quite popular within the affluent audience, and actually where George Clooney recently bought his mansion. So if we move to the next slide, we'll see what is Grândola about. How Grândola is not only like historical region of the country, but it's also all about lifestyle. So we have the different beaches, we have the golfing, we have a lot of restaurants, hotels, and it's an international lifestyle brand, as we see in many magazines or in many publications that Traveler, Financial Times. Here we see Comport as the affordable luxury for holidays home buyers. So it is a luxury destination. It is a place where we can meet both requirements: one, to enjoy the property if we are aiming to use it, and second, to have solid investment if we are aiming to have liquidity on the rental and also on the exit at the time that we sell the property. If we go back to the previous slide, if we zoom into the micro location, Grândola is actually 20 minutes, I would say, from the beach, from the nearest beach, but it has 8 beaches within 30 minutes, all of them beautiful Atlantic Ocean. And we also have in the interior a beautiful countryside, perhaps surrounded with a lot of restaurants and cafes. Here we see a few samples actually by the same beach side. So Blanc Comporta is a very actually popular one where we were there not long ago, right? Beautiful place. We also have a lot of hotels, 5-star hotels that are all within these country eco-friendly concept, and it's exactly the same concept that we do have for our project. We will see in the next slide. Golf courses, as we mentioned, a lot of options with international tournaments. And this is the project. It is a 92 units, 56 studios, 28 one-bedroom units, and 8 units of 2 bedrooms. As of now, we do have already, 35, I believe, right, Rack, that are booked?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
We have, in terms of the project, important to learn that it's a refurbishment project, and this is a must if we want to have the eligibility for the Golden Visa at the level of 280,000 euros. So we have to meet 2 requirements in order to make this investment eligible for the Golden Visa. 1, to be located where we are located, and two, to have a building that already exists and we are refurbishing. And this is exactly what it will happen. In terms of qualities, for those that have seen our previous projects, very much in line with all of them, high quality finishes. We have beautiful facilities, an on-site gym. We have a beautiful pool with almost 300 square meters, landscape gardens, and the units themselves that are actually very unique because all of them have very large outdoor space. The ones on the ground floor, they have either gardens or terraces on the same pool, so pool decks, or the ones on the top floor and second floor, they do have a rooftop terrace, all of them with the same size. Here we see an aerial view. It's divided into, the condominium is divided into 3 buildings, building A, B, and C. Building A, we have all the 2-bedroom units and the studios overlooking the pool. And we have on the building B and building C a mix in between studios and 1-beds. All of the 2 bedrooms and 1 beds that are on the second floor, they have that individual pool plunge. another view where we see a little bit more on the pool. Actually, the units that are overlooking the pool have been very, very popular. We still have, I think, 2 available, but they have been one of the first ones to book. And also the rooftop with the private pool have been quite popular. Some of the other views, of course, we do have all the material, individual floor plans, and price lists, sizes, everything to share with any of you that want to have a private call to go through all the different units. Here are some of the interior designs. In terms of the handover of the properties, they are all handed over with full fitted and included all the appliances of the kitchen. The furniture is optional and at additional cost. And we do have also the parking spaces and the storages that are at an additional cost. However, for those ones that are attending the webinar today and that would like to book in the next week, there will be a promotion on the studios to have the storages and the parking included in the price. Vicky, I don't know if there is anything that I missed that you would like to add.
No. I actually wanted to share with the audience this afternoon that I actually was in Comporta and visited the property in July and August this year. So I was there in Portugal. And I actually went to the beach, had lunch there. It is really, really a beautiful area to invest. It's very, very close to Lisbon. And I went there 2 ways. I can share that with you on a private call, but it is a beautiful area to invest. I actually also need to tell you that I visit the properties that I sell. So, I know that it exists and I know, exactly where it is if you ask me. So I just wanted to tell you, it's really, really a nice place to go. I think the lawyers who are actually in Lisbon right now will also share with you that this is actually where they would spend their weekends. Yeah. And then really, that's it for me. I actually, so right now, actually, we want to take you over to the Q&A. It's Q&A time. So guys, please post your questions. If you have any, I will go over some of them right now. I think the first question I have is for Andre. And it's, how long does it take to get my card, my first residency card?
Okay, I will give you our experience now, currently under the situation. So don't forget, everyone, that we had 2 years of COVID in Portugal, like all over the world. So 2020, 2021 were quite challenging for everyone, with severe lockdowns, which affected the delivery of public services. So this has meant that in the year of 2022, when air traveling has resumed, when people started looking again to these programs and starting again to invest, and also with the people that already were in the program that wanted to renew their cards. So the year of 2022 was also challenging because we had to find space for everyone. So this is delaying a bit the procedures. And so from the situation that is currently going on, I would say that 8 to 12 months until you get your card, your residency card. It's a bit of time, but there's a 2-stage process that needs to be done. So initially online, so by submitting all the documentation, waiting for a pre-approval, and then visiting Portugal to do the fingerprints. And only after that you can get your residency card. So please expect around 8 to 12 months for that to happen.
Okay, as a follow-up question to that, Andre, there's a question: how long does it take for the opening of the bank account?
Yeah, the opening of the bank, it's also taking some time. Banks are now becoming more picky in the details they want from the clients. So the onboarding of a client with the bank can take 1 to 2 months. Okay, so from the moment that we get all the documentation until we submit it, and then expect also the bank to request additional information. But I would say 30 to 60 days, okay, for that to happen as well.
Okay, thank you, Andre. I think this question is for Rak. What is the minimum investment And can I still invest in Lisbon or Porto?
Yeah, so maybe just to recap something that Andre went over, just to set the scene, it is now possible to invest in Golden Visa eligible properties broadly in two categories. The first category, if it's commercial and therefore something like an office space or a retail unit, etc., that can be anywhere, i.e. it can be in Lisbon or Porto, etc., and it can be at the various price points that the Golden Visa is offered. So anywhere from 350 all the way up to 500. But it is not possible to invest in a residential apartment, say in Lisbon or Porto. That is now excluded from the Golden Visa regime. In terms of the minimum amount of investment, as we set out in one of the slides, the minimum investment can be as low as 280,000. That is indeed where Sunhouse Comporta is priced at least as a starting price. And that is because investments in the lowest investment category, i.e. 280 and 350, must also be of a certain type, i.e. they must be a refurbishment project. And therefore, you can do a residential investment in a qualifying location in the lowest investment threshold at 280,000, which is indeed where Sunhouse Comporta is priced at.
I think there's a follow-up question to that, Rack. How much money is the upfront money for the property? Is it the whole amount right away, 280,000, or some portion of it first? And if that is so, what's the schedule?
Yeah, so I think as a starting point, maybe just to highlight the Golden Visa policy matter, if you like, the idea of the program itself is to invite or encourage foreign capital into the country of Portugal. So as a starting point, in order for an individual who is investing in property that is Golden Visa eligible, in order for them to move forward with their Golden Visa application, they must evidence that they have invested the entirety of the relevant amount, in this case, 280,000. Now, in terms of the typical timeline, because obviously people investing internationally, they can't just move funds around as quickly as from one day to the next. And typically the investment timeline is around 90 to 120 days, with the simple starting point of making a reservation deposit, which is just 10,000 euros. And then within 90 to 120 days, paying the balance of the amount, which is 280,000. Thank
you. There's a very important question that's being asked, and it's actually asked in all of our events. And who better to ask this from but Rosalia? I think this is for you because, you know, guys, Rosalia is actually from Spain. She's Spanish. So there's a question, why Portugal and not Spain or the EU countries? Mm-hmm. But it's really always a comparison of Portugal and Spain. And for me, I think, Rosie, in a nutshell, it's tax, right? But I will have Rosie answer that because she's the Spanish person on board.
Yes, all the time. Spain does have also Golden Visa program. And my sound is clear. Is it clear? So Spain it has also,
you're coming in and
has quite a few differences.
Yes.
With maybe his internet is not stable. Rack, do you wanna try an answer from your side? Because
yeah, sure. So let me see if I can summarize the main points, because this question, as Vicky put it, does come up quite often. It's a comparator between Spain versus Portugal, and I think as Filipinos, you have some connectivity with Spain historically, etc., and so your hearts are probably more easily placed within Spain. I think there's a couple of key differences. One of them is actually, as we highlighted, under the Portuguese Golden Visa program, you don't actually have to move to the country to qualify for the residency and then citizenship. It's just simply going there for 7 days a year for the next 5 years. So a holiday once a year. And that allows you to qualify. For the Spain program, you actually must move to the country. And for Filipinos, that time that you need to live in the country is reduced to 2 to 3 years. But nonetheless, it is a lifestyle move. So for some of you who have children and have your working lives within the Philippines, having to suddenly uproot and move your lifestyle to obtain your second residency and citizenship perhaps isn't an option. So that's one big key difference. You don't have to move to Portugal, but for Spain you do. Then the second point is, well, even if you did move, because you can sort of uproot yourselves from the Philippines and relocate to Spain for 2 to 3 years, whilst that is a potential way forward for some of you, what it does in fact do is, because you live in Spain, you therefore become tax resident in Spain. And Spain's tax policies are quite different to that of Portugal. Most notably, they have a worldwide wealth tax, meaning that actually all of your assets and income, if you like, is gathered on an annual basis and subject to up to around 3% tax a year. So over a period of 10 years, that's almost 30% in tax that you're paying on your worldwide wealth. And I think once people understand that, it becomes quite an expensive process to move forward. And Portugal, by contrast, doesn't have this system of global taxes, and therefore it becomes a much more cheaper and inexpensive option. So those are the key points. Lifestyle, having to move, even if you could move, you have to then think about tax, which can make this whole exercise quite expensive. Hopefully I summarize that as best as I can.
and maybe to add to that, the investment amount in Spain is 500,000 minimum. And the investment amount in Portugal is really half of that. It's 280,000 to access the residency and eventually the passport. So I think that's a big difference right there in the investment for a second passport. Thank you, Rack. Thank you, Rosie. There's another question here. Is there a property management office that will manage the property on our behalf? Like if we don't want to rent out, if we want to rent out the property?
Yes, so actually, we're not property managers. We're obviously investors and developers. But for all of our developments, we do work with a couple of what we believe to be very strong Portuguese property managers. In this particular investment, what we do have is an option for 1 year, whereby you would purchase the property from Arish. And if you wanted to, you could also rent the property back to Arish for 1 year at a fixed return of 3%. And that allows investors in that 1 year to become comfortable with the property, etc. And then post that 1 year, we would simply introduce the investors to the underlying property managers who we work with and are far more expert than us in Portugal in any event. So happy to make those introductions right from the outset if you want to interact with them directly, or if investors want to take the 1 year fixed option with us for the first year and then subsequently be introduced, there will always be a property manager available to sort of manage the property.
There's a follow-up question to that, Brax. Since I have you, do you offer buyback after a number of years?
Yeah, actually we don't. And just to perhaps highlight this, because it's a good framework point for people to have in their minds. Typically what you will find is that actually buybacks are offered for co-ownership properties. Co-ownership properties typically are things like hotels, serviced apartments, commercial properties, because actually the secondary market liquidity for a share in a co-ownership is probably not that high, and the developers know that. In this particular instance, what you're investing in is a residential property, which is full freehold title, i.e. you have your individual title deed over your individual apartment. That's the strongest form of legal title that you can have. And also, actually, when you want to sell, you've got the widest form of liquidity. So we don't offer a buyback in these particular residential investments that are full freehold title.
Okay, thank you, Rack. I have a question. Maybe I'll have Laura answer this. Is there hang on. Can I do an online language course? And are children under 18 required to take the language test?
Okay, so yes, it's possible as an alternative to the exam itself that Andrea was mentioning before. It's possible. There are some schools that have some accredited courses that are taught online. So yes, it's possible to do instead of a language exam. It's possible to enroll yourself in, of course, an accredited language course, online one that will replace the exam if there is your wish. That course has a duration of 150 hours. So if you have the time and you prefer to enroll yourself in a course instead of doing a 2 hours exam, it's a possibility. And regarding the second question, so if children younger than 18 need to take the exam, no. Only adults, only applicants over 18 need to take the exam or to enroll in the course.
Thank you, Laura. And we'll take one more question, and I think after this we can see everybody individually. We can do private Zoom meetings because we are mindful of time. But this is a very important question. How true is it that the Portuguese government is considering ending this program? I think that's for Andre.
So yeah, it was. I know that all of you have probably heard about that possibility, but it's not reality. So I would say that it is true that it has come up in October after the Portuguese Prime Minister, when faced with a question from a reporter, mentioned that probably the program had already met its purpose and that the government was evaluating everything, but. Honestly speaking, there's always a lot of discussion about this program in Portugal, but the fact is that program has been, as you've seen, has been very important for our economy. It has attracted a lot of money, which is still needed for Portugal. And very recently, our Parliament also discussed the matter. And they decided not to cancel the program. So this is a vote of confidence, I believe, from all the political parties, so that the government should understand that. So I think this can be a concern, but it's not reality. And even in the event that something can be introduced on that regard, it will also take a lot of time to enter into force. So I think that you should not be concerned about that. Of course, that if you are thinking about starting this program, you should start right away. I think this is the right moment to do it. As I mentioned, it takes around 8 to 12 months to get the residency card. So as fast as you start, of course, you will get your residency permit as well.
Thank you, Andre, and thank you, everybody. Before that, let me just summarize before we go. Portugal, the Golden Visa is so attractive because you actually only have to do 3 things throughout the 5 years. Number one, I would say go to Portugal an average of 7 days a year. It's actually much easier than that. Your first 2 years is only really 7 days. And then year 3 and 4 is 14 days. And year 5 and 6 would actually be also 14 days, after which you would have gotten your passport, because after year 5, you could apply for the passport. And your card is actually valid till year 6. So it's actually could be done in one trip or cumulative. You could break it down, and that is entirely up to you. You need to go 7 days a year average, keep the investment for that 5 years, then you could sell it after that. And once you get your passport, move anywhere in the 27 European countries. And like I say, please do not go to jail within the 5 years, because you will need a clear NBI. So please stay out of jail, everybody. And I also want to highlight that for Filipinos, right, these properties we are presenting to you today are actually not pre-selling projects like what we are accustomed to in the Philippines. These properties actually exist. They are a refurbishment project. So your contribution to obtaining a residency and eventually a passport is actually making the investment and improving upon it. So you actually will have full ownership. You will have a deed, which is just like in the US. After you make the purchase, the lawyers will record that deed for you. So you actually have ownership. So there's no way that somebody will run away or not complete the project like in the Philippines where you only have a contract but no deed. So you have full ownership. And I think that's where you can find that, you will have some peace of mind that you're buying into something you would own. So when you type in the address, you'll see that you're part owner of this, you're the owner on title of this property. And I think that's important. I also want to highlight that the lawyers that I'm introducing to you today not only have processed so much Golden Visa applications in the past, but also are independent entirely from the developers that I present in our presentations and webinars. So they are here to protect your interest entirely, submit the Golden Visa also for you, do the due diligence on the property for you. So they actually do all of that. But what I would like to highlight is really, really the beauty of this project, which you heard. And at the end of the day, it's really about mobility for our children. As we know, we suffered the pandemic. We've seen the war in Ukraine. We've seen that everything that's been evolving and the world is getting smaller and smaller and everything is going global. And so I'm a parent and I urge all the parents, this is the best gift we can give our kids. I mean, we really have to consider their future, giving them options and mobility. And as you know, I know some Filipinos that, are able to travel will say, Vicky, we have multiple passports, entry visas, right? Multiple entry visas. But you know what? With those visas during COVID, you could not even go. You needed to be a resident of that country. And we were all locked down for 18 months. And I was very lucky I didn't have to do that because I also have a dual citizenship, which Portugal also allows. So guys, I urge you not to wait. If there's any inheritance we can give our kids today, it's really the world. And this is it. This is the beginning to it. So thank you very much, everybody. We will be free to answer more questions on the consultative level. You can engage our lawyers for a free consultation. Also, I'm sure Arish will be more than glad to have a private meeting with you to go over the property as well. Thank you very much for spending time this afternoon. I know it's almost the holidays and everybody's busy, but thank you for spending this time with us. Have a good day and happy holidays, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.